The Omicron subvariant XBB accounts for about 18.3% of the COVID-19 cases in the United States for the week which ended on December 24. Now, the US Centers for Disease Control and Prevention said that this marks an increase of 11.2% in the previous week as the XBB variant continues to drive up cases in Singapore. Now, earlier this week, of course, the total number of confirmed cases in the United States surpassed about 100 million according to data from Johns Hopkins University. Now, the surge comes as the United States flu and respiratory syncytial virus are also spreading. The trio is dubbed by some doctors as triple-demic. Now, as there have been at least 15 million illnesses and several hospitalizations, around 9,300 deaths from flu so far this season, according to the information given by the CDC in the US. Now, Dr. Gilada, you had mentioned this. You said that it would not be a threat if it was dealt with properly, and you don't see it as a threat to India. But, sir, could you help our viewers understand this subvariant of Omicron? And then we'll go on to how this sort of difference between how China is dealing with their pandemic and how the US is doing.
Omicron has currently 5 variants known, BA.1 to BA.5. And then there are sub-variants. And then there are recombinant. Recombinant means 2 subvariants combining together, which is currently in India, which is XBB, which is combining BA.2 and BA.210 and BA.2.75. So if these are combined, then XBB, and XBB is very silent, very mild. So I always call Omicron is a variant of support to India, not variant of concern. Other countries have BA.3, BA.4, BA.5. BA.3 and 4 they overcome. Initially, it was started BA.1 in UK and Italy, and then now they settled down. Now, BA.5 is creating havoc everywhere. So, BA.5.2 and subvariant in China, and BA.5.1 and subvariant in USA, Brazil, and some European countries. So, these that has been renamed as BQ1 and BQ1.1, and here it is BA.7. So, basically, these 2 subvariants of Omicron. They are Omicron only. There is no other alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon available now. So under these circumstances, BA.7 has been found to be more infectious, but we do not know whether it is more lethal or not till China comes out with how many lethality happened. But similar variant is there in Taiwan, in South Korea, in Japan. And BQ1 is there in Brazil and USA. And USA has been always grappling with because of 2 major things. Number one, there is a lot of vaccine hesitancy. In India also we see hesitancy. But Indian vaccine hesitant, they never try to influence others. Right. They did not take out Morcha. But in US, they influence others and they create a lot of ruckus. Secondly, their mRNA vaccine has a life of only 4 months. Therefore, we have seen them taking 5th dose. In India, we have not even taken 3rd dose for many people. So, our vaccine, which is AstraZeneca or Covaxin, it has a longevity of almost a year. Whereas mRNA has only a longevity of 4 to 6 months. And they banked on mRNA so much that they bought our mRNA 5 times more than required for their countries. Okay. And not only America, Canada, all Europe, Australia. Okay. So they became so self-centered. Now they're suffering.
Right. Sanjay Srivastava, come in on this point. The dealing of COVID surge or a subvariant that it can be seen in China, which is total chaos, and then in the US on the other hand, where they are trying their best to give as much information about the subvariant as possible. Now, we've just spoken about how the CDC is giving in exact data that they've gotten. They're giving out exact symptoms faced. They're giving out exact details of the subvariant, anything they've observed, anything they've studied, the samples, all of that. It is in complete contrast to what China is doing. Help us understand the sort of importance of that and exactly how the US is now helping the world in contrast to China.
Well, that is the difference between a responsible nation and as a very irresponsible country like China. And China is known for this kind of behavior. And China, you know, in their, whether it is strategic thinking or economic thinking, deception is an integral part of the entire considerations of China, and they try to suppress information. They give false information about themselves. They lie all the time, and that's why in the democratic countries, particularly, and the entire international community, they don't have any trust on China. We do not trust on China. We have had several border areas tense situation. and whatever the talks and negotiations we have with China, we do not trust on their face value, because we know the real Chinese character, that is of lie, deception, etc. But on the other hand, if you look at the behavior of the United States of America, the oldest democracy on the planet, and other countries, including ourselves, the way we behave to the international community, the way we respond to this kind of situation is quite remarkable, and that should be the way to deal with entire thing. According to the international health regulations, if any country is having a virus which could cause pandemic, it is the responsibility of the country to inform about that virus to WHO within 24 hours. But China took more than 2 months to inform about the coronavirus. Obviously, they suppressed the information. They detained doctors. Some of the doctors, they died in jails. Those who are trying to tell about this virus to the international community. So China has committed a crime, in my view, and China has committed a crime by suppressing the information, and in that process, they have helped this virus to spread out in the international community. And obviously, China must be held accountable for it. I have been saying it time and again. But unfortunately, as Dr. Gilada very rightly mentioned, that WHO is a partner in crime. WHO has not performed this role. WHO has also been, very, very, careless in dealing with the entire situation. And also in 2019, what we have seen that we, Dr. Tedros and other WHO officials, they kept going Beijing, having meetings with Xi Jinping and other Chinese Communist Party officials, and obviously they got all sorts of inputs, guidance to how to go about it. They kept on refusing human-to-human transmission about this, coronavirus. But later on, when it was spread out all over the world, when the situation became horrific, then only WHO admitted that, oh, yes, there could be a human-to-human, transmission. So all sorts of crime has been committed by WHO also. And they must also be held accountable. But unfortunately, we have a very weak international system, and such criminals, those who have committed these kind of crimes against humanity, they are not, still being given a due punishment what they truly deserve.
Okay. Right. Dr. Gilada, now speaking of the concerns for India, one thing is that, of course, viewers, they might have questions regarding, firstly, the subvariant in United States, but also the fact that in China there is a different variant, in US there is a different variant. So is there now concern that there might be a different variant that might erupt in India, or it could eventually trickle down into India and be a cause for concern? Are these variants now fatal? Are they going to be as bad as Delta? You did say if there's not a new variant manufactured, there's no concern yet, but just to give our viewers a better understanding of now what the concerns are, if there are any for India, and what we should do as a nation.
See, of course we are concerned, and every country should be concerned. But our concern should be graded. So we have to decide grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, and at what level it should be. It should be currently at the level of planners and policymakers only, and those labs which are doing genome sequencing. Now, what we have found is BA.7 has been also seen in India way back in July, and we have 4 or 5 cases just recently last week also. That means if it has been existing since July, if it was so virulent in India also, despite our vaccination and despite our past infection, it would have spread like wildfire. It has not. Secondly, we already given a lot of challenges to our population. Navratri, Dashera, Diwali, lot of socialization, marriages. We have seen Delhi airport like a bus adda. Despite that, there is no letter. And what we need to do currently is just keep doing genome sequencing, see whether there are new variants or subvariants coming. They will keep on coming automatically. Only manufacturing at the base for first time was done by China, but thereafter it is automatically happening. And more so in uninfected population and in unvaccinated or poorly vaccinated population, or vaccinated with poor vaccine. It will be more and more new variants or variants. So we should be worried about that. But currently, I don't think we should be worried about BA.7 or BQ.1 hitting to India. However, whenever people from these countries are coming, do your targeted testing, symptomatic testing. You find out if there are subvariants available here, whether they are having any multiplier effect in India. It is possible that Indians have reached a kind of endemicity. Endemicity means we cannot become endemic or pandemic at all because of two things. One is we had 90% of us had infection at least once. and about 75% of the population is vaccinated. And vaccines are with a good longevity. So with this, we got a hybrid immunity. And our hybrid immunity is protecting us, though some antibodies may not be there, but there are memory cells which will find antibodies and that will protect. So that will be providing a long-term protection, and that is possible in India. And therefore, last 1 year, 22 has gone very well.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.